Oh, I need to lower down the volume. Cause Switch will be like, you can't play this song. So my opinion so far as Saikoroshi is, I sympathize too far with Rika to like the arc that much. Because my thought is, I want to get out of this too. That was my feeling when I was watching the anime. That was my feeling here. So far, my mind could change. So let's see what Satoshi has to say. Hey, Rika, do you have a moment? After school, I was about to head home before the rain started up again. Satoshi called out to me. I looked up and saw Mion and Reina with him. I had been stopped by the upperclassmen brigade. Their expressions weren't exactly gentle ones, and I suspected I was in some sort of punishment for after what I did during lunch break.
Do you need something from me?
Yeah, we wanted to talk to you a little.
About lunch break?
Well, that too,
I'm sorry for hitting Sadako with the chair and stuff.
I spoke the words fine, but I didn't bother to hide my glum attitude.
Please don't be scared, Rika. We're not here to scold you or anything like that. Then why are you?
Well, I'll say it straight. We need to talk about how to get along with everyone from now on. It's just, I want you to understand something. Some of the responsibility for things ended up this way belongs to you, Rika. Mion, you didn't have to say that. I think it's an upperclassman's duty to explain these things, isn't it? This conversation didn't look like it would be a fun one. If I blew them off, it would probably only get worse, so I decided to just pretend I was listening. Reina took my silence for being dispirited, and she started speaking in a much more light-hearted tone.
Rika, don't you think it'd be great if you could make friends with everyone and have lots of fun playing with them? So we were thinking about what we could do so you could get along with everybody. What do you think about that? What do you? I don't know.
You may not know this, Rika, but Mion, she collects a lot of games, right? Well, it's an old hobby of mine. When I was little, I collected a lot of board games and card games for some reason. I haven't bothered with them at all recently, but I couldn't just get rid of them, so I have a whole lot piled up in storage.
She has all these fun games, but she won't play with anyone, so they're just collecting dust. What a waste, right? I want to play that British burglar game where that thief puts on glasses.
I want to try the game where you connect 3 tree branches like building blocks. But all the manuals are in English. That Shion reading those manuals is the only thing she was good at. We could just ask her, but she goes to another school far away. Hey, wait a minute. Okay, I have to stop right there. I remember I was reading, if you don't know anything about me, this is an Umineko thing, but has anybody heard of, what was it? Witches and Woodlands. It's the Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing, except it's a Umineko kind of fan video thing. I don't remember. I think her name was Talius or something like that. I forgot how to spell her name on YouTube, but if you look up Witches and Woodlands, you'll see something like that, I think. I don't remember. Or was it Witches and Woodlands? I think it was something else, but like Talius made like these fan Umineko videos. I forget what they're called, but like Kinzo likes to use 42 as some kind of joke or something like that. And like there's this thing where Battler is really, well, is extremely incompetent, and there's this one joke where like, it's one where Battler was like, hey, Berncastle, I have a theory about Saikoroshi. Yeah, what's the theory? Well, my theory is that Rika is actually just a very miserable girl, and SAIKOROSHI is whatever, and you constructed this fantasy. Like, he kind of tried to do, like, this Umineko-esque thing, trying to deconstruct Higurashi, where, like, where Saikoro was actually the real world, and Rika was just making elements, or making things up in the story, like Sadako being miserable or whatever. But like, one of the things that Talius used is like, oh, I bet Shion doesn't actually exist, like a twin or whatever. And it's just, but it's like, oh, technically there was a flaw in that one theory. I just had to bring it up because it just made me think of this. So it is confirmed that's because I'm like, Shion doesn't exist according to SAIKOROSHI or something. Why did they say that? And it's like, oh no, Shion does exist in SAIKOROSHI. Oh, okay. Because I was a little confused. I mean, this is something that you won't get unless you watch the YouTuber. Sorry, I went on a completely unrelated tangent that's Umineko related. I don't even really like SAIKOROSHI that much, so I'm gonna interrupt it. So anyway.
Then we should all try to figure them out together. I'm sure it'll be fun.
That's true. If we all play by the same rules, then even if we're wrong, it'll still be fair.
Well, doesn't that sound fun? We were thinking about starting an after-school game club. A club for games?
Everyone in class can play, and while you're playing with everyone, I'm sure you'll eventually be a part of the circle before you know it, Rika. In other words, this is your upperclassman being considerate and giving you the chance to fit in. Again, Mion, you don't have to say it like that. I felt a little sorry for you lately, but I actually think some of your current isolation is your own fault, Rika. My own fault. Reina and Satoshi fell silent after hearing that. I guess everyone in class shares Mion's opinion.
My own fault?
Of course this was about me. I had no idea what they meant by that. They were talking about the Furude Rika before I came. To me, she was the same as a stranger. But to them it must have seemed like my surprised tone was just me not understanding because I was young. They sighed a little. It was an unpleasant sigh, like they were telling me to look at myself. I wanted to be freed from this as soon as possible. Before everyone moved away, Rika, you were kind of like a princess, weren't you?
I was a princess?
Yep, a princess. Rika, you were like a princess to the group of boys. You had them wrapped around your little finger. You didn't even need to do anything. You just let them act for you. Do you remember Tomina and Okamura? They seemed to like you a lot, so they'd do whatever you told them to. You just sat on your reputation unconcerned. And you'd do things like make the boys who liked you compete, so you could always get the best deal like a war profiteer. A lot of kids didn't think that was very fair, so when all those boys moved out at the same time by coincidence, and only you were left behind, some of those kids thought you got what you deserved. None of that was about me.
Rika, we're talking about you. Please listen to what Mi-chan is saying. I am. No, you're not. Rika, you think it doesn't have anything to do with you, am I right?
Whether Rena or Reina, she was still just as sharp as ever about the weirdest things. I wanted to believe it was just a wild guess, but she had hit the nail right on the head. Reina, you stop too. I think Rika has thought about it enough already. I wonder. She still hasn't said so. It seems to me she didn't realize it until we told her. Come on, stop it. We're not here to bully Rika. We really want her to be friends with everyone, right? That means we all have to work hard to change our relationships with each other. For some reason, I was upset, because it was as though they weren't talking about Furude Rika, but about me. Me, a princess. There was no guarantee I wasn't one until now. Loved the most of all the club members. Ran the boys in class pampering me, laughing at Sadako and Keishi's failures as I coolly profited from their conflict. Without giving anything myself, I just greedily devoured the goodwill people poured upon me. They were right. That was me. I hadn't wanted to accept this sad, lonely world and set myself apart. But of course they couldn't actually have been talking about me. So though I didn't know the reason, I was still upset. We were thinking about having Sadako join the club too. She's really stubborn, so she won't say it, but she wants to get along with you, Rika.
How does that sound? Do you want to try being in our game club, Rika? I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun.
Or think of it this way. do you want to start putting in a little effort to change yourself?
Some things might be awkward at first, but I'm sure you'll get along with everyone sooner or later. After all, everyone wants to be your friend, and if you want to be their friend too, then you're both reaching out your hands. I'm sure you'll meet in the middle.
And look, we're already reaching out to you. All you have to do is grab hold, Rika. I felt like Keiichi said something a lot like that in some other world. Those words probably made Furude Rika really happy, but that wasn't me. All this only applied to the Furude Rika from before I possessed this body. For me, this world was a fake, a dream world, and besides, I was in the middle of a hunt. I didn't have time to hang out with them. But they weren't faking their feelings for Furude Rika, and I found myself without an answer, at a loss for how to respond to them.
We're sorry, Rika. To tell the truth, when we went to wash our hands and you were talking with Yamamoto in the nurse's office, we might have overheard you a tiny bit.
Reina gave me an apologetic look. I never thought the others would be listening to that conversation, which must have sounded like garbled nonsense to anyone from this world. I'd understand if it weirded them out and if they didn't want to come near me, but I couldn't quite understand why it had resulted in this.
The world you're talking about, Rika, it sounds like a really fun world where everyone gets along together. You said you wanted to go back there, right, Rika? So we talked and thought about how we could bring you back there.
Still, it's not like we can call back Tomina and Okamura now that they moved.
Yep, I think everyone wants to go back to that old world, but I think that's definitely impossible.
Huh. That startled me. There was no way Reina knew about me and my old world. Even still, her words felt full of meaning, and they echoed in my heart. You can gather all the fragments of a cup together, but they're just fragments. Once it breaks, it can't go back to the way it was.
But there's more than one cup. It's a shame the cup broke, but you can always look for another one. But if you look down on the broken cup forever, you'll never ever find it.
Here's what we mean, Rika. You can't get good friends who moved away to come back here. So you just have to make new friends who are just as good as they were.
I think a world like that would be really close to the one you came from, Rika. It wouldn't be exactly the same, of course, but I think it's as close as you're going to get.
And by doing that, you can make everyone stronger relations than you had before. You know what they say, when it rains, the ground gets harder, or something like that anyway. What do you think, Rika? We'll help out so you can make new friends quickly. Would you like to give it a try? Those gentle words would have been tear-worthy if they had been said to this world's Furude Rika. But now that I had possessed her, she was gone. The Furude Rika they were talking to was no longer of this world. I thought to myself that I should just give this body back to her. If I did, the me living in this remote parallel universe would have the chance to change her fate and make this world a happy one, if only little by little. If I went back to my old world and gave this leftover body back to Furude Rika. But I couldn't do that. Because for me, to leave this world would require the same method as returning the fragment from the world to the world of the gods. In other words, my death. Only my death would make me go away, which meant at the point I took over for Furude Rika, she was the same as dead. But maybe, just maybe, there was one way to return this body to Furude Rika. That would be for me to die in a different way. I wasn't a parasite or anything. In difficult to understand terms, I was an individual personality aware of other universes. Or maybe I should call myself a memory aware of other universes. And that meant that if I could forget about the other worlds, that would represent the same thing as me dying. This world was only the world for Furude Rika, and she would live the best as she could in it. If so, I would gradually forget, eventually losing my grasp on the world which I had lived in, and try my hardest to live in the world I was in now, which meant that giving up on my previous world and living in this one was possible, simply if I decided to do it. Like Reina said, it might be a different world than my old one, but it was the closest I could ever get. It might be a little different from my old world, but the club would still form. In exchange for Keiichi and half of our classmates, Satoshi was here. I wasn't best friend with Sadako, but depending on how we interact in the future, We could at least become regular friends. Hinamizawa would sink underwater in another 6 months, but I could work hard to make new friends in my new home. That cruel destiny wasn't Furude-rika's alone. It was an impartial destiny shared equally by all who lived in this world. Only I had the luxury of being a special case and jumping between destinies at a whim. I didn't know. Which world should I devote myself to? Reina's words came back to me. A broken cup never went back to normal, and I couldn't find another one as long as I was lamenting the first. What did the cup represent? Cups were for filling with water. The water could probably be called happiness. The cup broke and the happiness inside was scattered everywhere. The cup was broken and I was at a loss, unable to fill it with happiness again. But if I could change the way I thought, and rather than be attached to the broken cup forever, fill a new cup with a new happiness, it could open the door to a new world. Still, while that world might be similar, it wouldn't be the same. My heart had weakened and I'd been discouraged. Wasn't this only so tempting because my search for the key to go back was so difficult? Before, I didn't swear I put any effort I needed to return to my old world. If I broke the oath, Hanyu gambling on my fate would be left all behind for all eternity, all alone, and I'd be the only one so selfishly happy. While I didn't have any responsibility to make Hanyu happy, she was my ally and my partner who stuck with me for 100 years, and my friend. So even if I wanted to give in to the temptation, I'd have to ask Hanyu, which meant right now, I had no right to answer their proposal.
Really, thank you. I'm very happy.
It's alright. We'll protect you, so let's make lots of good memories before we have to leave.
No, well, could you give me some time to prepare my feelings?
What's with this girly response all of a sudden? It's not like Satoshi just asked you out on a date or something.
Mi-chan, that wasn't necessary. I can understand how she feels, just a little. So we'll wait for you to prepare your feelings, Rika. Thank you. If I do accept, then please let this Furude Rika be one of your friends.
I bowed apologetically. Here and now, that was the most I could do. Okay, at least there's something good about this world. I want to be sad. Or something, I don't know. After refusing their suggestion that we all go home together, I left on my own. It was Furude Rika's right, not mine, to enjoy going home with them. It wasn't something that I, Frederica Bernkastel, could accept. What was I, anyway? I wondered if another ball could fly into my head like before. This was how this world's Furude Rika was possessed by me. So if I got hit again, would I vanish, and the pure Furude Rika who lives in this world return? If only I wasn't me, I wouldn't hesitate to take them up on their offer. This world truly was far sadder than the one I'd come from, but this world had something all its own, and the opportunity to become a happy world on its own right. If I had known about the other worlds, I wouldn't have been able to contain tears of joy at the mere premonition of happiness I might once again attain. Were these conflicting emotions those of this world's Furude Rika sleeping inside of me? Those emotions made me angry, and I blamed myself, asking why I'd put their offer on hold and went home all alone.
I'm back. Welcome home.
My mother always immediately followed up with a "do you have homework, but not today." "Rika, come into the kitchen." Her voice was vaguely cheerful and light. I wonder what it was. Did she want to surprise me in a good way? But I couldn't remember today being special. A person's expectations sometimes comes out in their voice. For the time being, it felt okay to go and poke my head in. I set down my things and headed for the kitchen. When I entered, my mother had already started dinner despite it being so early. She was in a good mood. I wondered if something nice happened. Every year at this time, with the Watanagashi festival approaching, she usually got more and more impatient with all the preparations and setup. Knowing all that, my mother's good mood baffled and confused me. I asked if she needed something. When I did, she suggested something I never heard even once in these 100 years.
Come over here and help me make dinner. We're having curry today. Let's make something wonderful and surprise your father with it. Uh-huh.
I didn't like curry that much, but before these 100 years, meaning not me, but Fururika, I think she might have liked it. I knew at least that my mother was trying to make her daughter happy and suggesting that she and Fururika, not I, make dinner together. I didn't like my mother that much. She was prone to hysterics, and I hated how she always sounded like she was hunting you down when she talked. Pfft, I got a mom like that too. When she treated me so nicely, my reason for disliking her felt irrational. When reminded my mother had a change of heart, I decided to go along with it as to not hurt her feelings.
Then you can peel the potatoes. Can you do it with a knife? Actually, that's dangerous, so use the peeler instead. Okay.
I was actually rather good with a knife. I was so good that when I peeled daikon radishes, I could make a long strip of skin at the same time I sliced them. But there was no reason to damage my mother's pride by showing her that her daughter could use knives better than her. I decided to make her look good for now. My mother had probably been using knives for decades now, but I've been using them for many decades. There is an order of a magnitude's difference between us, so I wanted to be proud of using a knife better than my mother. I wanted to brag about it, but that might have trampled over her feelings. Her want to teach her daughter how to use a knife. Parents are supposed to live longer than their children, so children respect the things their parents have learned from having lived longer than them, but, which is like me, live longer than their parents, and learn many more things. Still, I think I probably never learned what I really needed to. I mean, as long as I genuinely listened to my mother, she'd never get hysterical. If I didn't feel like respecting her as my senior in life, she wouldn't feel like she needed to act as one either. In the end, all that was left was a cold, uncomfortable relationship between parent and child. If I had acted more like a daughter and pretended to be an ignorant child when I needed to be, maybe my relationship with her would have been more peaceful like this. Basically, she was Fururika's mother, not the mother of the witch who lived for 100 years. Thinking about it made it seem obvious that she'd be cold to me.
So first we put the ones in the pot that take the longest to cook. Okay. When do we put in the onions? The onions will melt if we cook them too long, so we can't leave them for last. You work so hard on cutting the onions too. I'm sure they'll taste delicious. Okay.
My mother smiled. She seemed very happy. Her smile was warm. I thought I'd completely forgotten over these 100 years, but I remembered for less than a moment in time. My parents had to die in 1981. That fate was unchangeable, and besides, we could never get along in the first place, so it didn't matter if they died. As thoughts like those overlapped, maybe my concern with my parents had waned. Our hearts had steadily lost their connection, and the situation had steadily worsened. Before now, I hadn't thought I could gain anything from this world. Not once did I think it would make me realize something like that. With a mother like this, maybe spending time with her would be warm. It would be fun. That's right. The reason I rejected my mother's warmth, maybe it was because I wanted to soften the sadness I felt at her death. But I couldn't change the fate that she met in 1981. She might as well hate me. Was that the idea at the root of it all? In this world, my mother hadn't died in 1981. She would stay here for a long time to come. I felt just a little jealous of Fururika, and I was stricken with the desire to return this world's me to her. This world was so different than my previous one. Keiichi wasn't here. Shion wasn't here. Hanyu wasn't here. But in exchange, Satoshi and my parents were here. There was no club, but there would be one soon. Sadako wasn't my best friend, but she could be in the future. I could weigh my previous world and this one on the scales, but I didn't know which way it would tip. I decided to leave this decision up to Hanyu. Yes, my destiny wasn't mine alone. It was Hanyu's destiny too. Whichever I chose, I would have to talk to Hanyu before making my final decision. This multiple world concept was something I only had because Hanyu had lent me her power. If Hanyu had never given it to me, it would have been over from the very start. Takano would have sliced open my body, and that would have been it. We put the lid on the curry so it just had to simmer. My father returned in the meantime and really enjoyed making us see making curry together, and then on my mother's suggestion, he set the table. In any normal 1981, he really hated it when my mother told him to do anything. But he wasn't troubled at all the prospect in this world.
Rika, put the rice on everyone's plates, please. Can you do that? Yep, I can.
Of course I can do that, idiot. It's something I thought many times before, but this time I didn't. I opened the warm steaming rice cooker and plated the rice. My mother put the piping hot curry pot and spilled it over everyone's plates. I keep messing up, I don't know why, I'm sorry. Wow, that's good. Rika served the rice and Mom made the curry. It looks delicious. Oh, that isn't right. You made the curry with me while your father did nothing.
Me.
I peeled myself back. Furude Rika shouted that I wasn't needed, so I pulled back. I withdrew inside Furude Rika, as she got to enjoy a family dinner from the bottom of her heart. When we saw the crooked potatoes, we all laughed pleasantly. I would never cut potatoes to be so ugly, but Furude Rika was still bad at this, so these things happened. When I used the same ingredients, the only thing curry tasted like was curry powder from the store. After 100 years with the same curry powder, it tasted the same no matter how you made it, but this particular curry tasted different. I cried at what the Furude Rika had lost. No, at what I had lost. Furude Rika got to experience the warmth that she had once forgotten. I wonder if another ball would come flying and hit me in the head, that I would pass out for a while, and upon waking again, I would be gone. Wasn't that the best possible happy ending? I was the stranger here. I thought this universe was a strange one from all the other parallel universes, but it was me. I was the stranger. Then, what had the world been, the one I had reached after 100 years? Was its happiness that we all won, Keiichi, Rena, Mion, Sadako, Shion, and I? Was it all worth nothing? That wasn't true. It was a radiant world, one where we all fought the right to live in after 100 years of learning to trust in each other. It was replete with a different kind of happiness than this one. Both shone brightly, and neither was better nor worse than the other. Maybe in the end, most worlds weren't better or worse than any other. Only lived in the extreme worlds, the ones where I struggled to see whether Takano killed me or not. So of all the other infinite universes, I started to think of them either as right or wrong. But the multiverse wasn't simple enough to think in binaries like that. Tomorrow's dinner might be steak or salted sorry. It wasn't about which was right and which was wrong. In both of those worlds, I'd spent a happy time eating dinner with family. What if my respective selves had been reversed during tonight's dinner? But that was an incredibly tasteless thing to ask. The real problem wasn't that big to begin with. Neither my last world nor this world was better than the other. I needed to accept that. I didn't know where the fragment I needed to return to my world was, but what if I never knew, and the power of the crystal ball connecting me to Hanyu disappeared? I would disappear like the stranger I was, and give this body back to Furude Rika. From her point of view, she would have to say that I had returned to my old world. Just as I once called this world a daydream, for Furude Rika, my old world was the real daydream. Her strange delusions of me would simply disappear along with it. Maybe it didn't really matter how to return to my original world. Which world would I decide was the original? Maybe that was all this really was about. After we finished eating, we cleaned up our plates and started washing things. My father said he had a meeting tonight and he was about to leave again. Rika, could you wash these for me? I have something to talk to Dad about, so please do the rest.
Okay.
I responded cheerfully as Furude Rika, but I had realized something slightly out of place. If she had something to talk to my father about, there would be plenty of chances during dinner. But she made me wash the dishes, so they could talk amongst themselves. Rika just had to stay put and wash the dishes, but I couldn't suppress the curiosity that was welling up. So I snuck over to the front door to listen in on what my parents were saying. My mother was the one talking. Her tone of voice wasn't a cheery one. Yamamoto is discussing it with a big hospital in the city. From what he said, it might be her heart more than her brain. Apparently there's a wonderful doctor there who can help. I knew it. I knew I shouldn't have asked. Yamamoto certainly hadn't promised to keep our discussion in the nurse's office to himself. As soon as I left, he'd probably called my parents and told them their daughter was ranting about nonsense. He probably explained it as my isolation at school wearing down on my mind and damaging my heart. Considering what I told him, even that would be a conscientious interpretation. Did you talk to Rika about it? I will after this. I mean, it feels like we're tricking her. Given that tomorrow the doctor will be here, we'll suddenly be off to the hospital. But you know, when I think about how she feels, I can understand. Her friends got up and moved away, leaving her all alone. I should have tried to understand her feelings. Rika's always been saying that she didn't want to move. We didn't want to wait for her to deal with that, and we made her repress it. When is Yamamoto coming tomorrow? He said the evening, but he didn't give me an exact time. He said he'd prefer it if you were there too. I'll be in the assembly hall tomorrow, so when he gets here, give me a call. All right. Don't be discouraged. I understand why she's saying she wants to go back to her original world. But there's nothing we can do anymore. This is decided between the village and the national government. I at least want to give her some fun things to look back on when she remembers living in Hinamizawa. You're right. It's time, so I'll get going. I'll leave Rika to you. All right. Come back safely. I snuck back into the kitchen as the same as I'd come, but I think the floorboards must have creaked. When my mother returned to the kitchen, she still didn't sound particularly cheerful. Were you listening, Rika? Yamamoto called us today. He told us what you talked to him about.
Me, Yamamoto's really mean for talking about it without asking me.
Rika, I'm sorry. You wanted to live in this village forever, didn't you? We never thought about your feelings, and I think we said a lot of pretty harsh things to you.
It's okay. It doesn't really bother me.
My mother's apology was meant to be heard by the Furude Rika living in this world. It wasn't for me to accept it, so I denied it. But my mother kept apologizing anyway. I was going to deny it again, but I stopped. It wasn't my turn. I should pull back. And then I thought I felt myself begin to fade out. As I did, I felt my eyes grow warm. The rest was for me, a misty, hazy world. I cried as I buried my face in my mother's chest, and my mother cried as well as she hugged me. If I could have disappeared like that, this too might have been Furude Rika's life. After that, my mother told a lot of stories of Hinamizawa, as if to reminisce about her own childhood, about what she was like as a kid and what she did and where, about things happening or not happening. As she talked, we comforted each other, both of us wanting our beloved village to stay in our hearts forever. And when your mom was little, all the elderly people in the village treated me like I was really important. That was because they believed I was a reincarnation of Oyashiro.
Oyashiro's reincarnation?
I never told you, have I? There's an old legend in the Furude family. If there are 8 first children in a row who are girls, that 8th girl is said to be the reincarnation of Oyashiro. That girl happened to be me.
Not me?
You're our first child and a girl, but you would be the 9th one. We have a maternal line, I suppose. Your mom is the 8th, Oyashiro's reincarnation, but this is a secret, okay? We have to make sure not to tell anyone about it. The only ones who know are your late grandmother, me, and you. It's a secret between the two of us, okay? Sometimes, as a proof of trust between girls, they reveal secrets to one another. For my mother, this was probably a trivial secret that she could use for that reason. But for me, it was different. Hanyu was first able to appear before the 8th of the 8 consecutive generations of girls, before Oyashiro's reincarnation. But in this world, Furude Rika wasn't the 8th. She wasn't Oyashiro's reincarnation. So, in this world, Hanyu couldn't appear before Furude Rika, and that was when, with my face buried in my mother's chest, I felt a warmth. No, a literal heat. Does she have a fever? No, this felt the same as Hanyu's power. Well, this was a secret. With my grandmother dead, there was only one who knew my mother was Oyashiro's reincarnation, the woman herself, which meant if my mother was gone, the fragment of there already being a reincarnation of Oyashiro in this world would disappear. My warm tears ceased to flow. I felt my eyes drying up as I plummeted to the bottom of the abyss of despair. It was her. My mom had the fragment in her. If I could have, I would have chosen never to remember what that fact entailed. Uh-oh. Sorry, Rika. When I tried using the crystal ball with Yamamoto today, it still hadn't recovered enough for him to talk to Hanyu. Only half a day had passed, but maybe if I went to the storehouse I'd get through. Hanyu once told me the old air from the past had remained the storehouse, as she felt comfortable there. Maybe that meant the storehouse was filled with Hanyu's power. In other words, while the crystal ball didn't have quite enough power, maybe being in the storehouse would help a little. Late that night I slipped out of bed and snuck into the storehouse. I wanted nothing more than to talk to Hanyu. I went to the altar before the holy vessel and spoke into the crystal ball.
Can you hear me, Hanyu?
Oops, sorry. Wrong voice. Can you hear me, Hanyu? A light in the ball was feeble, but its otherworldly glow was clearly present. Please let her hear me. My wish was granted in a quiet voice, so low it might disappear at any moment, spoke in an answer.
I can hear you, Rika.
Hanyu, thank goodness, listen, I don't know what to do. I don't know. This wasn't the time for crying. I needed to tell her everything I discovered and ask Hanyu's opinion. I squashed my frantic emotions and I told her the fragment was in my mother. Hanyu stayed quiet for a few moments. She knew, of course, that I had to kill my mother to return to the fragment of the world of the gods. It makes sense, doesn't it? You can only appear to Oyashiro's reincarnation. I'm not the 8th in this world, so you can't appear to me. The 9th isn't good enough, huh?
It was a very long time ago. Ancient times. So ancient even I've mostly forgotten.
It happened back when Hanyu was still living in Hinamizawa. Before Hanyu became Oyashiro. It was how it all began, when Hanyu never told me about no matter how much I asked her.
My human self, that is, when I decided I would become a god, my daughter, your ancestor, Rika, was very sad about that. She knew I made the decision, because I'd lost hope in the human world. I took all the sins of the human world upon me, for there was no other way to cleanse those sins other than destroy the sinners themselves. People were forcing their sins onto each other, an ugly existence. Their excessive cruelty caused me to lose hope in this world. I undertook all the sins of the human world and cleansed them by letting them kill me. I entrusted that final duty to my own daughter. I thought that unless I gave her that role, she would one day be despised as the daughter of a demon god and lose all hope in the human world herself. My daughter didn't like that role, but she understood the weight of her mission. In the end, she went through with it. But she said something to me, that she would change the human world in which the only price of life could purify its sins. Humans could combine their strength and help each other, cooperating with mutual benefit in mind. She swore to me that she would create this utopia, which her mother had only dreamed of. Please, Mother, do not lose hope in the world of man. I swear that I shall heal that sadness. But I would become a god. I couldn't accept my daughter's feelings. No, actually, that wasn't it. I had already lost hope in the corrupted world of man, and I just didn't want to look at it anymore. But my daughter made a firm promise that she would remake that world into something better. And I shall believe in what you feel. When in this land people live happily, aid one another, support one another, and think as one, I shall return to this land once more. My daughter killed me and took control of the village, the divine power of the demon god dwelling within her. She became their leader and created doctrines so that everyone would trust in and help one another. By making them fear a curse where discordant hearts would revive the scepter of the demon god. Spectre. Sorry, Spectre. She led them strictly, not letting my purification go to waste, so that those purified sins would never again revisit the village. And so the village did regain a temporary peace, but I never descended to them again. I had rejected the human world too much strongly. Oops, much too strongly. I don't know why I keep misreading that, I'm sorry. But no matter how strong the power to reject it, it can never last forever. Whether hearts or walls or lids or doors, there is nothing that time will not decay. Even the power shutting me away from the human world wouldn't last forever. My daughter would learn the limits of that power through a revelation from a higher god than me. It was said when 8 generations of Furude bore a girl as their first child, I would come again. The miracle of 8 consecutive firstborn girls would be the key that broke my power of rejection. My daughter left that legend to the Furude family. It would be passed to her descendants, so that this land would continue becoming my ideal. So Rika, when you were born as the 8th girl in a row, I was connected to the human world again. Long ago I may have hated and shunned the human world, but a millennium without contact was more than enough time to heal my sadness. At some point, I actually started to feel sad at the prospect of living in a world where I was all alone. I hadn't intended to spend those thousands of years in rejection, but it was also a punishment for me. I realized how shallow my feelings had been when I hated and despaired over the human world. And before I realized it, the Furude family started giving birth to consecutive girls. When your mother was pregnant, I wished so much for it to be a girl. I'm sure. I mean, the first face I remember seeing wasn't my mother's. It was yours. Maybe abandoning the human world for 1,000 years was my punishment. Humans can only live in the human world, and they must live earnestly in the world they are born into. For someone who made light of that and tried to abandon the world so easily, maybe an exile of 1,000 years is a fitting punishment. Hanyu's words were heavy. Maybe having been carefree in our walk between countless worlds, even comparing our own lives to dice rolls, we had been sinful. I live with you, my friend and daughter of 1,000 years ago. And when we came to the dead end of 1983, I committed another sin. I used my power to change your fate. Are you saying that in the very first world, you should have accepted the fate of Takano cutting me open and killing me? It may sound cruel to you, Rika, but that is how I feel right now. I made light of the world I lived in. And I made light of the world you lived in too. I should have lived in earnest in the world where we were together. I should have welcomed it, no matter its end. Stop that. Wallowing in masochism might make you feel better, but it makes me unhappy. I said I didn't want to surrender to that fate, and that I'd fight on forever to achieve a much more wonderful life. And made this 100-year journey with you. We're at the end. It's absurd to come up with that now. You're just being sentimental. Aren't you just making light of this world too, which you and I built together for over 100 years? Don't you think that's selfish? It is man's sin to save a dying animal, then bask in its rapture. We go up in the snowy mountain, kill the beasts, and offer their numbers to the gods. After all this, you're saying it was my fate to die too? You've gone insane! I don't care what you say, the world we want is a result of our sweat and tears. You and I are the only ones who can understand how brilliantly it shines. And now you're rejecting it! Rika, please let me get back on topic. Once I had my fill of this world with you, the 8th, I planned to disappear at the end of your life. It had nothing to do with the time you'd be alive for, so I never told you. But in that world, your mother is the 8th. That means I've already had contact with the world of man, was satisfied with how wonderful Hinamizawa had become, and had already left for a higher plane. In that world, I've already left. That's why I can't appear here.
But there's a fragment of your world there, and it's in my mother, which means this. Only my mother knows that she's the 8th. If I kill her, the contradictory force says you can't appear here will vanish, correct?
That's right. Originally, it was an obvious fact that your mother is the 8th in that world. And killing her wouldn't necessarily change anything. But after you drifted here from another world, Rika, it could be like mooring a boat to a dock. It was fortunate only your mother knew the truth. If a lot of other people knew, you would have to kill them all. I'm sure you wanted my opinion on whether you should kill your mother to return to the previous world or to stay in this world.
I did.
This whole time, I've been investigating what kind of world you're in. And when I found out what it was, I expected this day would eventually come. And I predicted you would grow indecisive and talk to me about it, and that you would want to choose a world based on the result of our discussion. So I thought long and hard about how to guide you. Unlike the world of gods, the words in this world of man are narrow. No matter what words I choose, they will carry bias within them. I thought very hard about what words to say so that you would truly choose for yourself. And I still am. After all, you've left the answer in my hands. If I suggested you should choose this world, you would choose it. You would shift the responsibility of paying the price to me. That would be cowardly, and there is no worth in a life resulting from such a decision. As someone who has trotted countless worlds and left her footprints outside the world of man, you must make a responsible choice, without relying on me, with your own strength.
I know what you're trying to say. You couldn't bear me shifting the blame and saying this happened because of what I did, what you said. Decide your own life for yourself. Easy to understand.
I wanted to tell you this too. I was happy spending my life with you, and through those countless worlds we walked together, I learned that Hinamizawa overflowed with kind and gentle cooperation. It everything I wanted from this world. I wanted to say that even if you chose a world without me in it, and I was to disappear, I would still be happy.
Hanyu. Hanyu had foreseen this. Foreseen this world would grow ever warmer for me. But Hanyu herself was in opposition to this world. Any amount of discussing this with Hanyu, who was from the previous world, would only make it more difficult to forsake that one. She had even anticipated that after discussing it with her, I would need to make a decision from an impartial viewpoint. That's why she said it. She wanted to accept whatever fate Furude Rika's decision gave her. She didn't want me to worry about her and live in the world that I liked best. Let's say that I did choose this world. What would happen to you?
Because of that world's rules, our long journey together would come to an end. For you, a life in that world. And for me, the fact that my time has already ended in that world would be applied.
Doesn't that mean you would disappear?
But that's a really, really pleasant thing. Rika, you seem to think of it as me dying. And at first, I thought so too. That the me in this world would die. But the Hanyu of that world, she may have disappeared, but she was filled with joy. She spent her life with your mother, enjoying her time to the fullest. Your mother is still alive, but that world's version of me is having a wonderful dream enveloped in kindness, in a sleep from which she'll never wake. I'm sure that warmth, that comfort is like that of a mother's womb. Now that I know that, I actually wonder if you will choose that world for me.
Are you serious?
If you had lived for 1,000 years, Rika, you would understand that warmth.
I could feel an ecstasy in Hanyu's words. Hanyu had lived for a millennium, and she understood that in a way I couldn't. You have to be joking. I'm just a kid. I'm only 100 years old. Of course I can't understand.
Rika, would you please stop using me as a reason to run away from this choice?
That was the truth. My old world and this one are being weighed on scales in my heart. It isn't tipping even slightly toward either side. Trying to shift the responsibility for choosing onto Hanyu was just me being irresponsible.
I can tell you everything about the world's construction to help you make your choice. First, Maibara Keiichi, who told us many times that destiny could be broken. He did not transfer schools in this world.
I knew that for a while now. He wasn't in my class.
For a time, Keiichi suffered the stress of his entrance exams, but unlike the previous world, he wasn't firing any toy guns at children. He strengthened his mind and endured the temptation, and finally overcame his mental weakness. Right now, he's trying to deal with the exams awaiting him as someone with a firm pride in his breast.
Which means Keiichi's sin is absent, which is why he never moved here.
Ryugu Reina, too, never moved to Ibaraki, since her parents' company stayed in business. Therefore, the divorce didn't happen either. For that reason, Rena will feel no guilt.
Rena had no sin either.
On the day of the ceremony where the elder sister had her back tattooed, Sonozaki Mion and Sonozaki Shion didn't switch places.
Oh, that explains it. I see. I got the feeling that Mion at the school somehow seemed different. She always loved board games, but she talked about her little sister knowing more about them. I see. I get it.
Mion didn't push her role as a successor onto her younger sister, and now spends her days training to be the head of her family. Shion, too, attends a distant school so she can support the family without getting in the way, as she's working her hardest as we speak.
The sisters both felt guilty at switching on the day of the tattoo ceremony. If that didn't happen, then Mion and Shion had no sin.
I don't think I need to go on, but Hojo Sadako doesn't carry the sin of patricide. Sadako grew closer with her stepfather, and they rebuilt their relationship. Because of that, she wasn't possessed by that terrible illness.
The Hojo family didn't oppose the village, and they weren't even ostracized. Sadako has no sin. Well, for Sadako and her family, this would be their ideal world. For Sadako and her family. Wait, no. Isn't this the ideal world for everybody? Keiichi came to Hinamizawa because he had committed a sin, but in this world he didn't and was now living his very best. Rena avoided her sad fate too and never sinned. She called herself by her given name Reina and was living happily. Mion and Shion were leading happy lives too. Without the tattoo incident, they were friendly sisters the way they'd been born. They were forced to live apart due to family matters, but that wouldn't be enough to tear them apart. For Sadako, this world was exactly the world of her dreams. Surrounded by the warmth of her family and a big brother, she was leading a bright and healthy life. This is the world that I, as her friend, should be wishing for the most. For Satoshi, well, this is the only world in which he still existed. In all the worlds I've been to, this is the only one where he was alive. Satoshi couldn't exist anywhere but here. And for Rika, this world was, maybe I had 0 friends. Compared to my old world, I was very sad, but I could change that now through time and effort. Maybe I was sad Keiichi wasn't here, but Keiichi was living a resolute life in the place he originally lived. Instead, I had Satoshi. He wasn't the same as Keiichi, but he was very kind and considerate. Even the club I was disappointed didn't exist could start the very next day if I wanted to. But the Hojo siblings, Mion, Rena, and me, and maybe the other classmates too. What would the club be like with so many people? I didn't think I'd be able to compare it to the fun we had with Keiichi and the rest. I knew I wouldn't be able to place one over the other. My parents were in this world, and I already learned how to interact with them, as Rika, who had regained the love of her family. My parents were in the previous world, but I had lively roommates that wouldn't leave me feeling lonely. Sadako. And Hanyu. If I choose this world, I have to say goodbye to Hanyu, the friend I'd spent 100 years with. Friend? No. If what Hanyu said was true, that she was my ancestor and a mother to me, which meant that she was on the exact same level as my father and mother. She was my family. My parents and Hanyu were both very important to me. I couldn't possibly weigh them against each other. That world is the ideal world born...
That world's the ideal world born of someone's dream. Nobody related to you has sinned. It's a very, very pure, clear, and beautiful world. I've already left that world, and Rika's life hasn't been corrupted. So I have no sin either. And you, Rika, you haven't corrupted your own life, so neither do you.
Even Takano has no sin. Not a single person does. A perfectly white, blank world.
That's right. And you can choose that now, Rika. Maybe this world is a valuable opportunity given to you at the end of your century-long journey by the god of fate, who even I've never met.
They would be a little more compassionate about it.
Which is why that god gave you a chance to go back to your old world too. By committing the greatest sin of matricide, you can choose to release yourself from this sinless paradise.
Hanyu, you said that your daughter killed you. What do you think of me repeating the act?
If I were your mother, I would probably say this. If it made you happy, I would not spare my own life. It might be too early for you to understand, Rika, but it's a feeling only someone who has given birth to a child and become a mother could know. I was once a mother, so I understand. Even if you said going back to your old world would make you happy, your mother would gladly offer you her life.
She couldn't. She's the one person who wouldn't ever say that. She'd just scream, "Are you crazy?" and go into hysterics. But then I remember my mother's smile when we made curry together. Would it be so strange if such fearsome words came from her mouth?
I don't regret my daughter killing me. Thanks to that, the sin she might have inherited was cleansed. If I had spared my own life, my daughter might have been persecuted, same as me.
But have you ever thought about what the daughter who killed you felt? It's easier to die, isn't it? You can wallow in devotion and virtue as you die peacefully. But the killer has to bear that cross forever. Didn't you say so before? Your daughter vowed to create a Hinamizawa where everyone wanted to help each other, all for your sake. And your daughters, over 1,000 years, went along with your sin. Maybe you shouldn't have died. I don't know what the sin you bear was, but you should have lived and fought. Fought so that your descendants wouldn't have to bear the sin. But you surrendered, and for 1,000 years, your descendants have been bearing your cross. Right? Hanyu was silent. That, without a doubt, was Hanyu's sin. It was easy to die for her daughter's sake, but her daughter's guilt would never heal. When Hanyu answered, she remained undaunted.
Then let me ask you, Rika. You, who say I should have lived and fought, what will you do now in that world? Do you wish to live in that world accepting the reality you are in and always fighting the oddities different from your old world? Will you abandon that world that you gained after 100 years strained in grime and sweat and yet still beautiful?
She was right. Maybe this world was beautiful. But that didn't mean the way that my old world shone wasn't beautiful too. Why wouldn't it be? We won that fate after such a long journey.
And even now you call that world which you gained at the end of a century your original world. So however pleasant this world may be, shouldn't you throw it all away, fight away the desire to stay in this world, and return to your original one? Even if you had to destroy this world, liberate from the sins of all related to you? My daughter who tells me to fight, you too should fight. To fight is not to defeat and overcome the obstacles before you. In the end, that is no more than a simple detour on the straight path before you. To truly fight is to make your own choices. At every choice in life, at every crossroads, people hesitate. Having one choice brightly illuminated and then selecting it. Such a predetermined choice is not a fight. But no matter how many times you are presented with the choice, you choose the same one. It's an inevitability. A real choice is when you truly think and worry, when you never know which you should choose. It is precisely the same as the choice between the red box and the blue box you once spoke of before. Will you choose the red box or the blue? To choose without guidance demands incredible courage and determination. That is a true choice. If you knew what was in the boxes, it would no longer be a choice. It is because you do not know what is inside that you can be satisfied with what is in the box you choose. If you knew the contents of the other, it would lead to despair. Being left at the crossroads with no guidance and no hints is what it means to live. You may lazily continue to choose the right or knock over the sign and choose at random. You may also search carefully for hints, worrying over how beneficial the left or right would be and remain at the crossroads forever. Thus, you would be able to accept the final result awaiting you as your own responsibility, would you not? You would not grow old and go into your coffin wanting advice from your parents, would you? Worry, choose, and go forward. That is the fight.
I earnestly worried and chose my own life.
My daughters earnestly worried and chose their own lives. For each and every one of us, that is sacred. It is precious. The descent of 1,000 years later must not sully that. And all who lived in that age were always beautiful. You must not speak of their lives using values of later generations. Lastly, I'll tell you something very important. The Kamu no Mikoto no Ri's power that connects us will soon be lost forever. I will never again be able to interfere with that world.
So this last night, I'll be able to hear one of these helpful lectures.
There is one more thing. The fragment that has appeared in your mother will lose its power forever when the sun sets tomorrow. Losing doesn't mean disappearing. It means you will forever lose the chance to take back the fragment with your own hands.
Which means I need to make my decision about whether to go back to my original world by sundown tomorrow. There's no third option to put the choice off.
No. You may also choose to flee the decision, purposely ignore the last moment you have to choose, and passively stay in that world. If you did, you would live that life differently than the one you chose proactively.
Whether or not I chose proactively was also whether or not I would accept this world. If I continued to live here without accepting it, I would drag along all the distress that I currently held forever. Compared to that, maybe it would be a lot better just to choose one or the other. But even that wasn't easy. Hanyu had said that this distress itself was the battle.
Now, Rika, fight. Your fight will last until sundown tomorrow. But please don't run away. Because whichever world you decide on, I know that world will be a wonderful one. Just like the world you gained after fighting for 100 years was. The world you choose after fighting through this will become wonderful. I'm sure of it. So please, Rika, you mustn't choose one without fighting. People are never ever satisfied with the result of a choice they didn't struggle with.
Thank you, Hanyu. I'll fight with this choice. If I can meet you again, it will be in our original world. And if it's this world, then take a good rest to heal your millennium of exhaustion. Thank you for everything. Thank you so much. It was because of your strength that I mistook my own life for something I could do over as many times as I wanted. If that's who I am. I feel like it would be strange somehow if I was living in my original world. It was easy for me to think that if I just slipped up in any small way, I could just do it over, but that wouldn't make that world a wonderful one. In that sense, I understand just a little your sin of using your power on me when you shouldn't have. But that sin belongs to me too for walking through such an easy life. As we traveled all those worlds, I called it re-rolling the dice, treating my own life without respect. I think that this world taught me the weight of that decision. So at the end, being able to choose a wonderful world either way means I'm really lucky, right? I have no doubt that I'm the most fortunate person in all these worlds. Thank you, Hanyu. Thank you for giving me your kind words until the very end, when I was just stupid and conceited. I'll worry over this with everything I have. I'll worry and worry and worry. And I grasp a really, really wonderful world. So thank you, Hanyu. Hanyu, please answer me. The crystal ball was now quiet and cold in my hands, and gave off only a dull reflection of the flashlight that illuminated me. I shed all the tears I could. I thought if I didn't, I would hesitate when it came time to choose. So I cried out everything I had, and I thanked her for our 100-year relationship, because depending on my choice, I might never get to say those words again. Then I replaced the crystal ball on the altar where it was now just a marble, slipped out of the storehouse, and crawled back into bed. There was no way I was going to sleep. At least that was what I thought until I wrapped myself in linens. I felt the cool wind on my bare feet, and drifted off to sleep without realizing it. Okay, this was a pretty good scene, thank God. I really like this one. Furude Rika was going to sleep. I was going to sleep. Good night, everyone. Good good night. Me. And the sun rose again on another wonderful day for Furude Rika. She took her first step, her first small effort to become friends with her classmates again. And at home she was wrapped in her parents' love, and, the sun brightening her wonderful day, fell behind the mountains and disappeared. Long, long ago, there was a god who appeared before mankind. Bread rained down from the heavens, some lamented that it was not meat. Meat rained down from the heavens, some lamented they preferred bread. God descended down from the heavens. Until I know what will make all happy, water shall rain down. Water rained down from the heavens, all lamented their clothes grew wet. Fire rained down from the heavens, all lamented their homes were burnt down. God descended down from the heavens. Until I know what will make all happy, nothing shall rain down. Nothing rained down from the heavens, some lamented that God abandoned them. Many things rained down from the heavens, some lamented that God would not make a choice. Huge rocks rained down from the heavens, at long last there were none who lamented. Water rained down from the heavens, a passing traveler was grateful. God, thank you for the unexpected weather, with this my journey will never be dull. God said nothing and watched him leave, all for the best. Gods and dice should both be silent. Frederica Bernkastel.
Do you know who I am, Rika? Me, yes. Where am I?
After hearing that answer, the nurse burst out of the room in sheer surprise. How rude. Where's Dr. Irie? Call him at once! Tell him that Rika's come to! My head hurts. Oh, thank goodness, thank goodness! Do you remember what happened?
Me, is this the clinic?
Yes. While you were heading back to Hinamizawa with your friends, you had an accident and hit your head and never woke up again. We fear your consciousness would never return. Thank goodness. Oh, thank goodness. Irie even had a few tears in his eyes as he spoke. I was still just a little scared. I wanted to make sure this was the world I knew so well. So I mustered my courage and asked Irie. Yes, all your friends were incredibly worried about you. Sadako, of course, and Maibara and Mion and Rena. Unfortunately, Satoshi still hasn't reached a state where he can wake up yet.
And my mother?
Your memories must still be a little confused. That happened when you must have been unconscious for a long time.
Is she dead?
Yes, she died 2 years ago on the day of Watanagashi. Were you dreaming of your mother while you were asleep?
Thank you. I'm fine now.
Knowing that my mother is dead gives me a complex feeling. But there wasn't any doubt that this was the world I knew so well. And according to Irie, it had been a little over a month since the accident. After telling me he'd be right back, he scrambled out of the room. Left in my hospital room filled with the voices of the cicadas, I could do nothing but wander through my vague memories for a long time. I was fooling around on my bike while heading home from playing at the pool with everyone, and got hit by a car, right? But the world I awoke to after is still vivid in my mind. And if this is my original world, then after grappling with that difficult choice, I chose my old world and safely ended my long journey to return to it. Or was that all a long dream I had, like Irie said, while I was in a coma from the accident? I didn't know. Hanyu, are you there? That's good. Waking up in that world and not seeing you straight away was really disheartening.
Has something like that ever happened? I've always been the first one you saw whenever you woke up, Rika.
Hanyu speaks to me while wearing an affectionate expression. But her saying that at length just makes me remember the world of a few moments ago. Because for the first time, Hanyu wasn't there when I woke up. Hanyu, that world, was it a dream? Or was it real?
I don't really understand what you're saying, Rika. Did something happen?
Are you serious?
Rika, I don't understand what you're talking about.
Was Hanyu playing dumb? Or was she telling me the truth? I couldn't tell. Then, what was that world I was in? A dream?
A dream.
Hanyu answered immediately, and hearing that convinced me that sinless world was no dream. Then, I killed her with my own hands? My mother had the fragment. I shouldn't have been able to return to my original world without killing her. If I was here, that meant I killed her. And then after I killed her, I had to kill myself like usual, to send myself to the world of the gods. And conveniently, when I die, it goes back through my memories right before the event and tears them apart. So, it was only natural that my memories of personally killing my mother didn't remain. Trembling, I looked at the palms of my hands. They were pure white, pale, and bloodless. No, that was just it. That alone made me remember the feeling spread across my hands, that warm, sticky, slimy sensation. My fragment welled up inside me. Something inside me was desperately holding back the memories of that alien world, crying out for some reason, desperately holding them back, because if they spilled out, they would surely swallow me whole.
Rika, you need to calm down.
Hanyu put her hand to my forehead. I felt as though something was grabbing my lungs in a fist. A sense of suffocation, like something was squeezing the breath out of me. But it was squeezing those feelings about to swallow me up, and they couldn't come up any further. In exchange for the choking sensation, I gulped down the rising emotions, beginning to steadily regain my composure. Hanyu realized it and took her hand away.
Have you calmed down? You were asleep for a long time, so you must be confused. You should do as Irie says for a while. Take your medicine and get some bed rest.
Hanyu, wait! Tell me! What was that world?
Look, everyone's arrived! I'll only be in the way, so I'll disappear for a while.
Hanyu! I started to hear many footsteps running down the hallway. Hanyu whirled around as though pivoting on her heel and vanished. In exchange, the hospital door clattered violently open. My beloved club member friends appeared.
Rika! Rika!
Sadako? Hey, Sadako, Rika just woke up. You shouldn't be hugging her.
It's okay, Keiji. Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Clinging to me, Sadako fell to her knees on the spot and started bawling without hesitation. Welcome back, Rika. We had faith you'd come back to us.
Yeah.
Because when we all believe in one thing, a miracle's sure to happen. That's how we beat Takano that crazy battle, right? Because we all believe in a miracle.
Everyone believed that you'd come back for sure, Rika. We came to visit every day. We knew for sure you'd wake up, so we came every day. Oh, thank goodness.
Cautious, your memories are a little bit muddled. You didn't forget about this old man and the rest of us, right?
I know who Sadako and Rena and Keiji are, but I don't know who you are, Nipa.
I guess you're all right. That was something I could have never asked before. But just to make absolutely sure this was really my original world, I asked anyway, pretending my memory was still confused.
Is Satoshi not coming?
Sadako gave a somewhat lonely smile and spoke.
Mimi still hasn't come back after running away 2 years ago, remember? Rika, you can be so forgetful.
Her expression made my chest tighten. She was definitely the Sadako from my original world. I see. Your memories do seem a little confused. He said it wouldn't last and that was nothing to worry about. It's the same as when you get a phone call that wakes you up and says strange things while half asleep.
Yeah, I mean, you were sleeping in for almost a month after all.
This whole month,
I felt like I was having a dream. Oh, having a fabulous time, I'm sure, in spite of how worried we were. It was a very mysterious world, I think. It was Hinamizawa just like here. But a bunch of things were different. First of all, Keiji wasn't here.
Hey, what? Why'd you have to leave me out?
Because in that world, the incident with the gun didn't happen. In that world, you didn't have all those regrets. No, that wasn't all that was.
I realized this would be my only chance to confess to my own sin. Everyone listened as I told them all about that world. Whenever some small thing was different, they respond one way or another about it, but they listened to me seriously.
So the reason I'm here is because I weighed that world and this one. And chose this world, I think.
You probably saw the other side of the river Styx, like a near-death experience. If you had chosen that world, you probably wouldn't have come back here.
Yes, if I chose that one, I don't think I would have returned.
We all believe you come back here, Rika. And you believed it too, so it means our hands reached each other. I think you were doing your best to come back to us while you were asleep. What a good girl! Keiichi grinned and patted my head, but it seemed that he was mistaking what I meant. I hadn't returned. I compared that world and this one and chosen this one. Why had I chosen this world? Because this one was more comfortable to be in. Sadako was always with me. Everyone in the club was here, and they were nice to me and spoiled me. But all that was a world built on top of everyone's sins and misfortune. In other words, I had chosen to sacrifice the others for my own happiness. Shamelessly, self-centeredly, and selfishly. Everyone was fulfilled in that world. Only I wasn't. But I knew that I too could be happy there if I put in the hard work. But at the very end, I had chosen this world. I chose the world where I could rest on my laurels, atop the suffering and tears of my friends.
That sounds like a very interesting world. Thank you. You wanted us all to be happy, even if it was just a dream.
Rena smiled as she said that. Only she seemed to understand what I really meant by what I'd said.
But you know, if I got the chance to choose between those two worlds, I think this world would have been the right choice.
Why?
It's true that my mother's divorce is really sad for me. It changed a lot, but thanks to that I learned a lot too. So the Reina in the other world you talked about isn't as human as this Rena is. You thought I was an exemplary person, even as Reina in your dream, but when I was actually Reina, I wasn't a very respectable person. What I mean is, when my mother got divorced, it was really hard and sad for me. But now I can accept it, since maybe it was just one of the trials a person has to go through in their life.
It's true that the trials of life, of failure, make a person grow. Yeah, I get what Miranda means too. I didn't go to Hinamizawa in that world, but I was probably a total loser. I regret that incident more than anything I've ever done. I won't forget about it as long as I live. I'll probably have to reflect on it until the day I die. But like Rena said, thanks to that incident, I learned a lot of important lessons. Thinking about whether there was a world where I could make it so the past incidents never happened might be attractive, but I don't think about that stuff. I think they're all important foundations that pile up to make the Maibara Keiichi here today.
Oh, but that goes for me as well. I was a spoiled child before, and I would have stayed that way as long as Nini was here. Having a world where Nini would never leave home is indeed an attractive invitation, but staying with him and continue to be a spoiled child would mean nothing. So I would choose this world, because now I can be proud of myself and wait for Nini to return.
Do you all really think that? I worried so much, thinking I had erased my sin, and now you're rejecting the choice of a beautiful world where those sins don't exist?
Yep, I think this world is more valuable.
But why?
Because the future of this world was something we all worked together to achieve. The people in that world were just idling their time away, right?
Idling? But is living without a sin itself?
It's not. But this one is still more valuable. I think the flowers that grow up in the greenhouse without difficulty are beautiful, sure. But maybe wildflowers that withstand the wind and rain and heat and cold have something more to them than just beauty. I'm only talking about how important that is. Is there any reason to be ashamed of a beat-up wildflower?
But if you asked it to choose whether to grow up in a greenhouse or in a field.
Oh, I get it. That's what you've been getting wrong all along, Rika. Me. We're all wildflowers that sprout out in the field, aren't we? Once you've bloomed, there's no point in comparing them to an impossible imaginary future. Rika, you're talking from a point of view of something higher than a flower. Something not human. Which of those two worlds is happier? The only ones that can debate that are the gods who can go between those worlds. But for the human named Rika, there's only one world. Wait, I mean, you're in both worlds, but you can't go between them. The wildflower you and the greenhouse you both exist, and I think both of them are living proudly, following the destiny of their worlds. The wildflower saying things like, I wouldn't have struggled with anything if I grew up in a greenhouse doesn't make sense to begin with. We're all flowers. Wherever we plant our roots and sprout, we do our best to grow and bloom. Wishing you were born into a super rich family is what losers say in their sleep. If you have time to fantasize, you should start putting in effort and find a cheap supermarket so you can save and change.
Yeah, Sadako's proud of herself, so even if there was a world where she was super rich, I think you would compare them and not find either of them to be worse than the other.
Well, I must say, if I had to choose, I'd prefer to be super rich. I wonder, Rika, are you still having second thoughts, even after waking up in this world? Like whether really this was the right choice? Are you thinking that maybe the other one would have been good too?
Those words were probably the root of these cheerless feelings. I love this world, but I couldn't help but be troubled given the depth of my own sin, of abandoning that world and insisting everyone else be sinners. Shouldn't I have chosen the world for the sake of everyone I loved? They were unanimously decided this world was better, but in a way, it was just acceptance, since they hadn't been granted the choice of selecting one of the two. That was why everyone thought positively and went with this world. If they could actually chosen, they'd all be conflicted too.
It must be hard. So that's why the sadness deep down won't heal, Rika.
And yet, only Rena seemed to have figured everything out.
I know! I'll explain to you like a game so that you can understand too, Rika. Mi-chan, you brought candy with you today, right?
Huh? Sure, why? What was she going to do? Then Rena grabbed it with both her hands and stuck them out toward me.
Here, Rika, it's a present. I wonder which of these hands is better, which is? Me, you won't make me play a punishment game if I guess wrong, will you? There's nothing like that. Don't worry, just choose.
Even considering how we usually did club games, there really were no hints at all. I looked at the size of Rena's fists, but couldn't begin to guess which had the candy in it. Oh, whatever. Time to test my luck.
Then, I choose this fist. This one? Here.
Rena opened her fist and revealed the candy. I must have made the right choice.
Congratulations! Here, say ah! Ah. Is it good?
It was a standard but nostalgic taste of strawberry milk. As it shrunk as I rolled it down my mouth and sucked on it, I couldn't help but give a smile.
It's good, Nipa. Are you happy? Then Rika's world is happy. I'm really happy that I won your choice game. Victory is sweet. Hey, Rika, why do you think you won? Me?
Rena showed me her other palm, the one I didn't choose. In her hand, she was holding 2 pieces of candy. In other words, the one I chose was wrong. At that moment, and this was really obvious, but I immediately realized how merry I had been feeling.
That feeling right now is close to how you're feeling about this, isn't it? As soon as you compare different worlds, you're already overstepping your bounds as a person. It's God's job to worry over which is better, not ours. We only ever have one world given to us, and we're made so that we can find happiness in it. In your dream, Rika, you were a god who could go between worlds, which made you feel like that. But you can't worry about what was in my other hand.
I was a witch who had lived 100 years in countless worlds. That was exactly why I'd always believed I was special. Someone who could overcome millions of choices to gain happiness. That was why I was able to gain happiness that I was sure to. But I had it completely backwards. I wasn't any better than anyone else. When it came to finding happiness, I was the worst of them all. And I remembered how Hanyu had so curtly and quickly told me the other world was a dream. It wasn't a dream, but now that I'd chosen, this was reality, and that really was nothing more than a dream. When a cat is in a box, you can imagine 2 futures, one where it's alive and one where it's dead. But when you open it, there is only one future. The other future at that moment becomes no more than a dream. The one who opens it accepts the future inside and lives. Worrying about which of the two futures in the box was better was a job for those who weren't human, those who could interfere with the contents. As a mere human being, I had awkwardly trodden in the world of gods, which is why I had misunderstood some important things, wasn't it? In that world, Hanyu had regrets. She regretted having used the power of the gods to interfere with my life, and now I finally understood why. She was quite clear about it. She clearly said that people had to live the best they could in their world. I had to stop being this witch. Yes, I knew now that I was not the witch named Burn Castle, but Furude Rika. My copy had lived for 100 years, bending fate to her whim, and maybe she still exists in some higher dimension in this higher human world. But that was no longer who I was. I was Furude Rika. In this world I would live, and in this world I would seize happiness. I mustn't use that power ever again, which meant I had to make sure not to treat my own life without respect from now on, which meant...
I guess I should be more careful about traffic accidents.
Huh? You're right.
You're right. Never mess around riding your bike again. Yes, you're absolutely right. Children who don't know something that obvious have no right to pretend to be witches. It doesn't make a lick of sense.
Alright everyone, let's leave things at that today. Rika's still very weak right now. You can all come visit again tomorrow, so let's have her have some rest. Coach appeared and clapped his hands together. But my friends weren't finished saying goodbye just yet.
Rika, are you alright now?
Thank you. Rena explained everything to me better than your tied-up tongue ever could. I'm okay now.
The next time you lose your life, I'll have to accept that fate.
Yeah. I think I'm fine with that too. Children who mess around the road get hit by cars every day in Japan. It just happened to occur in Hinamizawa too. If I have something to be frustrated about, it's not crossing the road on the red light from now on. But are you okay with that? You used to throw tantrums about how lonely you'd be without me.
I'm alright now. I made a very important friend.
Really? Who is it? Introduce me.
I'm not telling. LOL.
I see. That means I'm Furude Rika, right?
If you think so, Rika, then you are.
Thank you.
Thank you for what?
A bunch of things. After Irian marched everyone else, they all glumly got ready to go home. Hanyu too was about to disappear, but I clapped my fist into my hand, as if remembering something, and spoke to her. Hey Hanyu!
What is it?
In that other world I promised I'd fill the refrigerator with cream puffs once I returned to my original world. But that was a dream, so I can forget about it, right? You're breaking character.
Rika! I'll bring you something tomorrow when we visit! Is there anything you want to eat?
Rika likes spicy things, doesn't she? She likes going to the Korean food fair at the department store in Gogura, doesn't she? I wonder if they sell super hot kimchi there.
I want something sweet. Sweet? Okay, what kind?
Then let's all go buy a shortcake. The ones at Angel Mart are especially delicious.
Then I'll go with some cream puffs from Angel Mart. Cheap ones are fine. I just want to eat a lot.
It's a good thing you're energetic enough to eat. It doesn't matter what kind of food. If you eat a lot, you'll be back to normal. Now then, everyone, visiting hours are over. Everyone began to leave, Hanyu too. Now we're even, right?
I didn't do you any favors.
Right. That was a dream after all.
Good night, Rika. Sweet dreams.
Good night, Furude Rika, and please treat the future you won with care. Thank you. Oh, right. After I get out, the first thing I'll do is go visit my parents' grave. I realized something just now. Why I had to kill my mother to return to this world. The fragment coming out when I killed her or whatever wasn't the problem. Choosing a world in which my mother wasn't here was already killing her. Until now, I've chosen this world without feeling any sorrow for it, for killing my mother every time. That was what you wanted me to realize, wasn't it? The sins you feel in me. That's probably one of them. I'd stopped respecting my parents. I finally realized that in the other world. Rika, thank you for realizing. I feel as though the most important sin I felt from you has been cleansed. It'll be okay, Rika. Your hands are not stained with your mother's blood. That was all something I showed you because I wanted to be mean to you for a little. All just a dream. May you forget all of it when you awaken from your slumber. Good night, Rika. Sleep deep. Sleep deep. As I dream of how you'll color your life in the future. And I hold the exact sentiment as Rena. Just saying. It's good. I mean, it's definitely better than the, It's definitely better than, what is it called? Than in the anime. It makes it more of a worth reading, but I don't think I'll read it ever again. I'll just read it once. Because SAIKOROSHI isn't my favorite. But I'll have to admit, it did make me emotional with Rika and Hanyu's conversation. I was trying not to cry the whole time. But it was pretty good. I don't know if it's worth it enough. Anyway, let's continue.
Excellent work on Higurashi when they cry Rei.
Ever since Kai started, we had this series of massive stories. Little scenarios like this one are fun once in a while, too. But wait, even a little knowledge can be dangerous, right? Wasn't the first chapter Saikoro pretty heavy on the thematic side? It was. Haven't we often given up on certain sacrifices and blamed it all on the dice of fate? Not being able to blame it on anyone seems like a very painful choice.
I didn't really understand it, but I had no idea such a mean story would fall right after the grand finale of Matsuri Bayashi. I went through a lot of bad things in that story. Me. I was happy I got to make so many appearances.
Really? But if I put myself in the main character's shoes, it would really stink. If it were me, I think I've been worrying so much time limit to go back to our original world would have run out. Huh? Why worry? That world was a nightmare, right? Didn't Hanyu say the world was a dream at the end? You just have to do your best to wake up from it. No, sis. I thought that after she chose her original world, it would have been too much for her to think about the world that she didn't choose, which is why Hanyu told her it was a dream.
I think it was so she could sever any lingering attachments to it. In the story, I said a few things about the regrets for the choices you don't pick. I think that either world would have been real depending on which one Rika chose. If she'd chosen the other one, maybe her original world would have been a dream. It might have all been a hallucination I saw when Sadako hit me with the ball and knocked me out.
The scenario wanted Rika to make a choice, so it made things tough for her. But after all that, maybe a coin flip would have been easier for her to handle. Oops.
Like I said during the story, I think that would have meant running away from the choice. Whatever choice you make, if you made it yourself, you can be okay with it. But if you didn't make the choice yourself, you'd have the reason to keep complaining forever. Yeah, you have a choice to make before you even make the choice, whether to choose or not.
With some choices, there's just no way to pick one option. That was probably the theme of SAIKOROSHI, the distress that it can cause.
That was a really cruel tale. It made me out to be a cold person, and Rika hit me with a chair and added insult to injury.
That doesn't matter. This old man barely had any scenes. But I guess it's okay. I had a huge role during Matsuri Bayashi to make up for it.
I showed up a lot in both of them, so I'm nice and full. Ow, ow, ow. Mm-hmm. You appeared pretty often in Rei. You didn't show up until later, though, so perhaps it was alright. Come to think of it, Hiro Kawashi was all about me, and the story was a tiny bit lovey-dovey.
Yeah, actually the way your cute mode sends you on a rampage reminded me of how I saw you way back in the beginning of Higurashi. This is just my impression after reading the story, but sis, You have to start pulling it together a little more, or she'll outdo you. Rena is way more aggressive than we thought.
Me.
Wait! Why is everyone taking pity on me, huh? Why? Why?
Not telling! Anyway, Hero Kawashi was a story based off motifs from the Higurashi Daybreak world, the fighting action game based off by Twilight Frontier. If you're interested after having read Hero Kawashi, please go give that game a try.
Which tag team will get their hands on the love-creating Magatama of Furuwazu? Aside from me and Rena being on one team, there's plenty of storylines to experience, so give it a look, shameless plug.
Hey, Shion, come to think of it, Hero Kawashi had a different background music than usual, didn't it?
Good on you for keeping an ear out, Sadako. You're right, in Hero Kawashi, in order to give it a more Daybreak feel, we borrowed several pieces actually used in Daybreak composed by the Twilight Frontier's composer, Yutus.
With different music than usual, our normal escapades have felt very different too.
I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep messing up between lines.
Of course, this is a sound novel, so the sound is important. The word sound takes up an entire half of the term sound novel, after all.
Which is why I don't understand the muting on this. Yeah, music has immeasurable effects and can make scenes much more exciting. Thank you so much to all those composers who contributed to Higurashi. If you can, we very much like your help again, Umineko. Oh, yes. Oh, I've seen that name crop up on the blog Circle homepage. Umineko when they cry, right? The naming feels like a meme now, but that's really the new game coming out now, isn't it?
Well, the name is still provisional, but in Ryukishi 07's words, it's set in stone tentatively. A lot of Higurashi sounds were used all through Higurashi. So with Umineko, does that mean a lot of seagulls will be crying? What sound did seagulls make again? Squawk, squawk! It'll apparently take place on an island. And with the words island and ocean in mind, seagulls come out as a natural animal you hear making noise in the background.
What? They decided to tell it based on something so minor? Anyway, wouldn't it be more difficult if you didn't have a temporary title? You'd have to put together stuff like this beforehand, or you'll be in trouble later.
He says it's only a tentative title, and if he comes up with something way cooler, he'll change it. Though I think it's probably already settled. I wonder what story it'll be about. It has the same When They Cry title, after all. I wonder if there'll be more strange crimes with people dying.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I don't know who's going to be the main character, but they'll have it rough. In any case, if you had to choose a main character from this circle, you might want to give it some thought first.
He said something about inheriting the blood of Higurashi when they cry, but still wanting to aim for a different kind of world. I don't really understand what he's talking about. Ryukishi 07 said he started working on the plot for real after making the master copy of Rei. I bet he's gotten all sorts of unpublished writings together already.
Just like I have all sorts of unpublished arts, or unposted artwork, because...
Looking forward to Summer Comic Kid 2007, Nippa! Well, this was certainly one high and mighty next episode preview. Judging by how there aren't any screenshots of it yet, he must have meant it for when he said he'd start working on it for real after finishing Rei.
Now, next year's Summer Comic Kit is still 8 months away. We just have to relax and wait. Please keep checking the Circle's development blog for progress. That does it for our PR announcements.
How did you like Higurashi When They Cry Rei? We hope you enjoyed it. This volume was called Rei, meaning gratitude, because we wanted to thank all those who enjoyed Higurashi and supported us. If you enjoyed it, then we couldn't possibly be happier.
Right, well, we thought we wouldn't be showing up anymore after Matsui Bayashi too. We had a ton of fun appearing again like this. Our Higurashi world antics are still a blast. Yeah, maybe Higurashi's the most interesting facet was having all kinds of stories. Happy ones, angry ones, sad ones, and fun ones. And SAIKOROSHI and Hiro Kawashi both fit right in. I had a lot of fun appearing in all sorts of different ways. I still haven't shown up enough. Is this the last time we'll be appearing?
Rikishio-sen was thinking he couldn't write any more Higurashi from now on, but he had a lot of fun writing these stories, so he might have changed his mind a little. He said he'd still like to write a few more things if he has time. And that's how it should be! I want him to write a lot more about how amazing I am! Our appearances, or rather Higurashi when they cry, isn't open yet.
Because there's Higurashi Go and Sotsu and other things.
Yep, there's no such thing as an ending. We're still living and we have all kinds of experiences after this and many more capers.
Yeah! As long as we're still in Hinamizawa, there's no weird stuff. There's no way weird stuff won't happen. That goes for more than just our club activities. There might be more horrific tragedies too. Higurashi Go Sotsu. I'd very much like you to be in those tragedies, sis. Oh! But I want to be in a romance with Satoshi.
That's right, we still haven't had a story where Nini comes back.
You're right. I'd like if there was a story where I had something real to do. That's right! I want to show up doing a lot more cool things too. What about Tomitake Ichiro, Storm Cloud Chapter? Wouldn't a story depicting our adult relationship be a little too stimulating for all the good boys and girls? How about we bring them a story about my splendid younger years to set an example for the youngsters? I'd be interested in your days as a kid, Oishi, and I'd like to see a story about my own mahjong days. Sheesh, it's all over the moment you start rambling on about your younger days. I don't care about my days as a greenhorn, and I want to be the main character and have a major role. Don't you? You jest. Flashy roles, no thank you. What about you, Chie? You're young, so I'm sure you want a more important role.
If someone gave me a chance, maybe I would, but if I was a protagonist, well, I think they'd have to change the title. What about you, Irie? Would you like to be one?
Who, me? Well, of course, if someone called me to do it, I'd take on the role. Everyone born into this world wants to be a main character at least once. What about you, Okanogi? You were very powerful, so I'm sure you want to be in the spotlight. Nah, he'll just show up in the subsequent When They Cry games. I'm fine with my role as a villain. If I had the chance, I'd like to make even more of a mess of things. Me too. I'm fine with being a villain, but I just want to show up again. It's only because we're such great villains that the main characters look so good. I've had enough of being a villain. A good guy role would be nice for next time. Oh, you mean in, I know it's just an act, but bullying little girls doesn't suit me. Right, Sadako? I hope we're good pals in the next story.
Being on good terms with you, Teppei, would make the story a bit embarrassing for me. Even them getting along in the after party feels very, very odd. But everyone here's got to put a performance together, so it was really fun.
In this fragment, they all get along and are just playing a play.
I hope we all have a chance to perform again together,
Of course we will. We all wish for it. We're sure to meet again. After all, the main story's already over, and the extra stories, anything goes. I can't wait to see what kind of nonsensical stories will be called in for next time. Maybe 07 Expansion will finally break into adult stories. But if Satoshi really insisted, I might not be able to refuse. Satoshi! I'd like a story that both adults and children can enjoy.
That's right! She should keep her unclean stories and needy inside her head. Me, if it's okay to dream, then I'd like a very charming little story where I've grown up and have a nice body.
Oh, you mean in Rose Gun days?
I want a story where everyone respects me more.
Oh, you mean in Umineko?
I'm a god. You should all be worshipping me. Nobody's had enough yet. I feel like we'll have to meet again together in a new story. We're all really grateful to everyone who could continue to follow Higurashi when they cry up until today. On behalf of all the characters appearing in Higurashi, we'd like to extend our thanks. The only reason we made it to this point is because of how much you supported us all. Thank you so, so much.
We're looking forward to meeting again some odd special stories. Are you ready, everyone? 1, 2. Thank you for everything you've done for us. Oh. Let's meet again. Honestly, I'd only be interested in like Gosotsu is one of my exceptions. I only read the extras after the Higurashi main story if like it's either in front of me or other things like that. Because like, or if it was something if I wanted to read more Higurashi stories, I do not want it to be like in Batsukoishi. Hirukawashi is okay, but I would like to see more funny hijinks or just like with everybody just happy together in that sense. You know? Getting along, all that other stuff. Nothing, no more tragedies. I like everybody doing just fine. That has always been my preference. If I ever wanted to willingly read a Higurashi story, the only reason why I read Higurashi Rei is because I have it. Okay? Oh, it was kind of fun reading like in Higurashi Ho, where I read the extra story, but it was like I don't have it, but it's where like it's based off of Higurashi Outbreak, and that was fun. Anyway, and I would be interested if I somehow found a way to read Hinamizawa Bus Stop. But anyway, let's read the staff room. Oops. Damn, that means tomorrow we're gonna read Higurashi no, we're gonna read Umineko no Naku Koroni tomorrow! Oh my god! I can't wait! Ah, you're gonna know my character! My favorite character that I can! I'll tell you one of my Umineko kinnies. I'm Maria. I kin Maria. Anyway. Good work, everyone. I'm Ryukishi 07. Well, we've had nothing but long chapters thus far, so it's nice to have short ones once in a while. Just confess it was easier to do the work, Nari. Hello, I'm Yatazakura. It looks like I won't be getting a paycheck this time. Well, leaving that aside, with Higurashi having come to a close for now, 07th expansion is finally speeding headlong towards its next work. I wonder what we should make next. That said, time for an emergency conference on our next work should be like.
Me? Didn't we decide on Umineko when they cry? Hello, I'm BT. Nipa.
Ah, yes, this is based off of... Okay, so BT was Ryukishi's best friend, and I heard during the development of Umineko he had passed away. Which was, yeah. And I heard it affected the writing of Umineko later on. Indeed. I've given it a temporary title of Umineko and come up with a direction for the story. But is that what we really need? Ryukishi Oson will throw all kinds of ideas one after another into a pot in order to make it work even more enjoyable. He'll boil them and stew them together and then leave them overnight, and curry the next day will have to be delicious. That's more like yami nabe than curry, Nari. And sometimes it tastes better when you don't mix anything weird into it. Come on! Staying on the festival gets nowhere. All interesting stories lead to cooking. Exquisite preparation, a harmony of spices, a secret ingredient beyond imaginings. Elevated to the highest heights, they become a wonderful flavor to move the hearts of men. To that, we'll research interesting stories from past and present, from east and west, and extract their essences. By bringing them all in, we'll all write a spectacular story no one could have imagined.
Me. I feel like this will lead us astray, but I think it's an interesting direction.
How naive. I know how this will end. We'll think of all sorts of ideas, Nani, and then other famous titles will fly out like this is just Tsukihime, or that's fate, and is that I'm guessing they're Fate Stay Night references. By the way, I've never read it. I have not read any other visual novels other than Higurashi and Umineko. I'm currently in the process of reading Kikonia, but I'm not allowed to do that one, and I'd only do it if we could post it all the way. So I will not be streaming Kikonia until I know it's A-okay. And even if I did do Kikonia, I have to learn how to pronounce all the names. Because I know there's a lot of names that are complicated in there. I was reading it, okay? Just imagine me trying to read Leto and all that other stuff, and I'm like, and I'm trying to be dramatic. It's gonna be murder on me, okay? Oh my god. And how about this? If we keep mixing interesting exorcists, we'll arrive at a famous title in the end. So I said we'll do the opposite, throw those famous titles themselves and mix them all up alchemy-like. I have no idea what you're talking about, Naren. But in short, you want to rip off a bunch of popular works, mix them up, and maybe come out with something new, Naren.
Curry rice fruit punch and strawberry shortcake. Children love each of them on their own, but if you mix them all up, nobody would eat them.
Are you sure? Are you perfectly certain of that? Why don't we try curry with fruit punch? It's totally fine with me. With alchemy results in numerous chemical discoveries. Even if we get nothing out of it, we might learn something from the process. It's our own mission as Zeros have to shamelessly test it all. It's exciting. It's what we're meant for. There's a water fountain next to you, so I'll wash out your mud. If I ate curry mixed with shortcake, I'd want to wash out my mouth too, Naren. But I figured out what you're trying to say. It's good that you understand. With that, we'll go to the recently popular. No, wait, popularity doesn't matter. We'll say that the titles are into recently and throw them in the pot and boil them all up. All right. First must be you, BT.
Me. It's very difficult for me to pick up one of them, but I'll go with the safe choice and suggest Rosen
Maiden. Oh, safe choice, I think not. You get right to the point, Naren. A heaping help of tsundere heroines is just what this age needs right now. I'm not gonna bother, like, changing my voices. No, that isn't it at all. It's originality having a hikikomori protagonist, and it's a modern world where the problem is only whispered about. It's novelty having a figure itself in the age of a figure moe be the heroine. And yet it still has the gold paved high road for Japanese boys that can't help but yearn for a lover appearing without them doing any work. It has the so-called Esper formula firmly in place. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. With an essence so perfectly aligned with the times, I can see why that alone would make a huge hit. Yes, it's suitable for the first ingredient in the melting pot of 07's next work. Well, they certainly got, like, the appearance of it, like the aesthetic.
Then next, Yatazakura should take a turn. I have a bad feeling about what he'll say, though.
If you want the high road, you can't leave those. Now I don't know what those are. Jupe stories out of things, Nari. I have to suggest Sakigake something Juku. Naren, I don't know. See? Oh my god. I knew it! The golden age constructed by Jump is also the golden age of battles. Any of us Japanese boys can attest to the fact that the catharsis of battle is engraved in our very genes. All those strong enemies standing in your way every episode, and you alongside reliable friends take down one foe after another. Normally battle stories are weak in the having that single protagonist leads to battles turning into the same thing every time, but by increasing the number of protagonists, they overcame that problem with variation. Oh, are you talking about JoJo? The composition of battle serialization that lasted for such a long time through different cards and situations of each battle. I see you could call it the accumulation of the fighting genre that Shueisha has spent 100 years constructing. The passionate catharsis in the battle spans time and space, thanks to the golden world called Fate. It has proven that unchanging attractiveness, even in the 21st century. I don't know if it is.
However, Rosen and Juku already feel like chlorinated cleaner and acid cleaner.
How naive! Blake Juku's character might be macho school uniform men, and they might be pungent with sweat. But that's merely the outlook of, I don't know, Juke comics, and only because of Hokuto no Ken was prime Naren. In other words, the essence itself is not in the visuals, but in the catharsis of strings of bells and the myriad of combat situations that would never be opposed to Rosen Naren. Oh my god. Okay, so I don't think I'm that familiar with what they're talking about. I'm just making very rough guesses, so I can be wrong. Yes, a sharp reading as always from you, Yatazakura. You're correct. In other words, we must elevate the Al game that appears in Rosen's story as well as to Juku's fighting tournament. I don't know. In other words, the school principal must be a NEET and a shut-in. And then the tsundere heroines appear uninvited. His action-packed dates with those girls is not only the opening. Eventually, he announced the As game out of nowhere. What? I'm confused. But I know why they're doing it. But what? Why would there be a dueling ground there? Now then, is there anyone who would take on Rose and Maiden's second doll? I forgot. That's where Sakura Ichigo should come in for real. I forgot her name. Ugh, it's been a long time. I forget. I'm sorry. Or was it Hana Ichigo? Oh, what? No, it's time for this Suiseki to appear. Or was it Suiseki? I forget. It's been a long time. I watched it before. Out of the way, this opponent is far beyond our measly tactics. Who are you? Wait. Yeah, I don't remember. Well, whatever. We have no choice but to appear whatsoever. Huh. You seem confident in your martial arts. Then why not try this out? This ultimate way to duel. The Arisugemu. Is this a reference to Alice games or what? What? The Arisugemu? You know what that is, Seiseki? The Arisugemu or Alice game. Oh, is that what it is? Do you get straight conflict? Oh, no. Oh, this is something else. No. Ancient China made it an urgent mission to find everyone's skill in military matters they could. To do that, the emperor used the time at a cruel trial called the Arisugemi to try to gather martial artists with unusual talents. It is incredible cruelty, said to only allow one every 100 to live through the trial unserved, but has honored the warriors who received the right to go undergo the trial. It is said when the messengers of the emperor came to the villagers and requested participation in the Arisugemu, he was welcomed in open arms. Also, this messenger, according to the historical legend, wore a rabbit mask. In England, Lewis Carroll's gotten the idea from it, later wrote Alice Adventures in Wonderland. But most people don't know it originated from Arisugemu in Minmei's publishing company Ginsama and the lactic acid bacteria. I'm sorry, I'm struggling to understand some of the references. Oh my god! If you want to play the violin that much, I'll let you play it for Enma in hell. I did it! I studied her victory for... I forget. I think it was the main character's doll. I forget her name. It's been a while. Did you see that, sweet Ginto? Take the hint already and surrender. What fools. I've only been using my low-rank minions. But this is where the Alice game truly becomes hell. And that's what the story's going to be like!
Me, I have no idea whether that's a novel idea or a horrendous one.
I have no idea either. It's novel, but nevertheless, I feel like some other circle's already written something like that. Yes, I'm sure another circle's already thought of this. But we're not done yet! We've only still mixed together two things. With a third thing added to the pot, we'll have something horrendously novel.
Me, a dryad spirit could probably do it. We'd be looking forward to your help.
Last up is Ryukishi. What kind of work will you suggest to us? I'm glad you asked. This is the big hit title Ryukishi 07 will pose. Yes, a super big title you couldn't possibly remove from the West Hall. The ultimate king completely dominating against Western Hall right now. And not only does it have a fandom, a user base, but a creative base spread far and deep. So famous that musical circles aren't said to be musical circles unless they make an arrangement CD of it. Is it Toho? The title that has filled the entire top 10 list of CD sales at Toronto for years with its own genre. Yes! You don't mean... Yes, the greatest peak of shooting games, the legend among the Dojin world, the Toho series! Yeah! I have like 1,000 freaking of the songs. If you want to know my music taste, that's part of it. If one half isn't... If 25% of my taste in music, or like 10% of my taste in music is Umineko and Higurashi, then if without Umineko and Higurashi set aside, the percentage of Toho music I listen to that are arrangements are 50%, and the other 50% is Chinese music, particularly of Chinese ancient music style, like gufeng. Okay. Okay? That's how you get into my heart. Okay? I love Chinese music because I'm Chinese. Traditional Chinese. Or anything inspired from that. Like, that includes Chinese opera. But I haven't seen, like, operas, but I like some of the songs or something. And I like it when when other musics take from that. And then Toho. Yeah. I don't really like the Euro beats much, but I very much like things like them. It took me a little bit to get used to Felt, but I really like Akatsuki records. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, you did really pull out the big guns.
Me, but the Toho series is a shooting game. We can't make shooting games in our circle.
Well, you kind of did with Rose Gun days. Sort of, not really. Of course, we can't extract the essence of shooting game genre, but we can more than easily extract the essence of its captivating world. We have that kind of jump still encouraging Japanese boys today. Something Jiku added to Rose and Maiden, which stormed the anime world by hitting everyone of its generation needs. And now we have the Dojin King, World's King of Kings, the Toho series. Definitely, you can see that Toho does inspire lots of Umineko stuff. By combining these three incredible instances, we're sure to get the result. Okay, this is the only one I don't know. It's now our fate to give birth to the ultimate work of that will dominate the 21st century. I understand your logic, but what part of the essence do we suck out? Like BT said before, we can't make shooting games in our circle.
Me, does Toho's appeal lie outside the shooting genre? Would it be unprecedented feeling of the mysterious world? That's another part people love.
Indeed. It's a fantasy world where anything goes. Its unique setting, completely different from the exception of the so-called JRPG-style worlds that already exist, certainly stands out. After all, it has Shrine Maidens, Maids, Blazers, Gothic Lolitas, Sweet Lolitas, even Japanese Lolitas in it. Even they all world in one place, none of it feels unnatural in that world. Ah, soon, I beg of you, make one of the new bosses wear a school swimsuit. And in those outfits, something normally impossible are possible in Gensokyo. In Gensokyo, throwing in other characters is no problem at all. Ah, please make the next new boss have a school swimsuit.
Me, I understand Ryukishi plays it out of his extremely biased taste, but now I know why he still hasn't unlocked the extra stages, not with that wicked heart.
To sum up what Ryukishi wants to say is, it's like this, right? We can have all kinds of outfits that suit our taste appear in one game. Yahoo! Yahoo!
Me, I would think there are lots of things we could learn from Toho, but for now Ryukishi is referring to when he talks about what to extract.
The gods will bow before us when these three elements are combined. The new world of results will bend its knee. And now go! Triple god combination! Oh my god. What? Why would there be a dueling ground here? Now come, I am the one, the only Suginto, the first stall of Rose and Maiden. I shall not complain. I don't care how many of you come at me once. What do we do? Who will go? In that dueling ground, we can't use all our skills, can we? Interesting. You seem to be in your martial arts, but you can't prevail over me, Suginto. I still forget who the doll that the main guy has. I forget because it keeps going over to Senku, but that's not true, or something. I do know. I know it was that, but I don't remember her actual name. I'm thinking about Dr. Stone when it's another one. If we fought like this, it would only end with such a boring conclusion, and that will awaken the fight within me. Therefore, I, Suginto, will give you one handicap. What is she doing? Suginto is drawing a line around her. It's like a sumo ring. I, Suginto, will defeat the likes of you without taking a step out of the circle. You can force me to step outside it. I'll admit defeat and serve you while wearing a school swimsuit. Heh, with that condition, I accept. Why don't I do the same thing then? But what? She's drawing a line around herself too? I'll fight without leaving the circle as well. If I take a step out, I'll admit defeat and serve you in bloomers in the collar. What? I forget her name, sorry. You're quite presumptuous to think you'd take on me, Suginto. You'll regret that soon enough. Take this. Rose and Ultimate Attack. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Somebody should make some, like, Ryukishi-esque sprites and then, like, put, like, the characters from Rosen Maiden in the Rosen Maiden style. Hi, I'm gonna look up the name because I'm so tired of not remembering her name. Okay, hold on. Let me look up Rosen Maiden. And try to remember what the hell her name was. It's been a while. Oh, Shinku! I knew it was S something! Damn it! I only saw it once, so. You love the circle, as promised. You'll change to a school swimsuit right here, right now, and serve us all here. What? But it can't be. Ugh. Okay, who's the other girl? I know there was another one. I know there was. I'm just gonna find a way. It's really funny how Suginto's voice goes back to normal after she loses Nani. Fun lactic acid bacteria times with Gin in a school swimsuit. How I'm taking her home with me. Hold on. Suisei Seki, Suginto, yes. Should we be leaving our circle's next work to someone like this? Oh yeah, it was Hina Ichigo! Damn it, I was one character wrong. Not Hana Ichigo. Ugh. Or I knew it was Flower or something. So, I'm very concerned. It looks like we should remove Yukishi from the picture before thinking about Umineko!
You heard them, Nipa.
I'll make an actual game, so don't worry about anything. Keep an eye out for what we're temporarily calling Umineko when they cry. We look forward to your continued support.
We look forward to it, Nipa.
In my view, everything went wrong after Ryukishi makes all those things together. To correct it, we'll have Dai-san add something to the mix. Ha! As in as in the composer.
If Dai-san had something normal, I'm sure strange Yaminabe will taste a little better.
Then I'll summon Dai-san. Hold on. And if you want to know what a Yaminabe is, it's cooked in darkness. Oh my god. It's random ingredients! It's... So I'm guessing... Let's see. Dark pot. The hot pot is cooked in darkness. Oh, okay. So it's cooked in darkness. The participants of the party are supposed to bring the ingredients for the nabe and keep them a secret. So it's like a potluck, but you boil it and you don't know what it is. Then, okay. Dai-san, it's been a long time. Yes, hello, it's Dai. But really, what have you called me here so suddenly for?
We want you to suggest a manga or an anime that left an impression on you.
I see. There's so many to choose from. But what about Dragon Ball? Dragon Ball, that was in Gosutsu at the last 2 episodes! Excellent choice, Dai! Let's go with Rosen and something Juku and Toho and Dragon Ball! Oh my god. There was a battleground here! What is he talking about, though? What is that other reference? I want to know. I want to know. I have to know. Put a brave fight, but for nothing. She's jostled around. Oh my god, I have to know. What are they talking about? And then the image of a girl with a dauntless smile. What? Are you Barasui? What? I don't know. You understand, don't you? If you lose, you'll have to play an embarrassing punishment game. Suiginto, you too. If you lose, it's bloomers, 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 bloomers in dark blue and deep red with white lines. Oh my god. Was that bloomer bit at the end supposed to be a reference to Dragon Ball?
I had a vague idea, but it's all vulgar as usual. Nipa.
Is it Bulma? I'm starting to worry about our future. Is our circle really gonna be alright? Hold on, I have to check. References. Staff room. I have to check. You might want to give us some time to consider whether or not we should stay together from now on. Please continue our support in our future and don't abandon us.
Nipa.
Oh my god. Hold on. Hold on, I have to check. I can't figure it out. If somehow anybody figures out that reference, because I don't know every anime and every whatever, I guess let me know or something, I don't know. Well, I'm gonna go. Tomorrow we're gonna read my favorite, other than Higurashi, Umi Neku no Naku Koroni, which is good. Goodbye.